Welcome to Making the Deal, Frameworks for Transactions, the podcast focused on lower middle market transactions and how to bring them to a close. I'm Shawn Racino.
I'm Joe Allen. We want to thank everybody for tuning into our year-end holiday podcast where we actually didn't wear suits for once.
Sure. A little softer.
Yeah, right. This will be a lighter podcast for the end of the year. Really, it's more about us getting some fun content out to the network, just kind of talking about the holidays, maybe a brief recap of some stuff. So we're going to touch a little bit on some of the podcasts we've had to date.
Sure.
We've got about a half dozen of them done at this point, and been quite a learning experience.
We lost the headphones. We're cutting that out.
We'll give you a brief preview of what we have in the pipeline for after the new year, because I think we got some pretty exciting stuff.
Absolutely.
As exciting as people find transactions
to be.
We have a shout out that we want to do today, and that is to Make the Turn, who has, if you've seen our clips, if you've seen our video on YouTube, if you've listened to us on Apple or Spotify, you are seeing the content that Make the Turn is putting together for us. We really, really appreciate everything they've done, because I think they've done a really, really fantastic job. Big shout out to Mike Sullivan, our buddy over there, and his entire team, like really knocking it out of the park. So just want to say a thank you there.
Much better quality than what Joe and I could produce, chopping up videos and chopping up audio, trying to marry them together. So shout out to Mike and the team.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. And then, at the end of this, we do want to wrap up with a little holiday discussion, kind of, maybe we'll talk about networking, maybe we'll talk about some personal stuff.
Sure.
So,
absolutely. Cool. Well, yeah, I guess let's start with a recap of kind of the episodes we've had so far. We opened up with our intro, right, just to kind of introduce ourselves. So not a whole lot of content in that one, just previewing the podcast. But then we hopped into the key components of a transaction and kind of talked about everything that you're going to encounter as either a buyer or a seller when you're going through a transaction, putting the deal together in a package, and your documents and due diligence and your financer, kind of everything to keep an eye out for along the way throughout a transaction, kind of laying the groundwork for some of these other concepts that we have dove into already and that we will dive into next year. So,
and you need that, right? You need to set up kind of what's coming, like,
sure,
because let's say you are somebody who's starting from scratch and you do want to learn something. I do think it provided like a really good groundwork. And now, as you said, we've dug into some of those topics, and we're going to get a lot deeper into some of those moving forward. So, following that episode, we did dive into like the key documents. So the term sheet, the LOI, and the purchase agreement. My takeaway on that one was to make sure that you have a really good attorney.
Sure.
What's our key phrase, Shawn?
Worth their weight in gold.
But have them involved throughout the process. Don't wait until you get your purchase agreement. Get them involved on the LOI stage.
Sure.
Make sure that you're going through all the specifics, because that's where you're negotiating like the key aspects of the transaction.
Right.
And then once you get to the purchase agreement, now you're expanding on that. So that was, I think, the key takeaway. If anybody was to listen to that episode, you're going to get granular in some of those areas with Justin, who was fantastic. Justin Hanna, thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was one that I think people need to be cognizant of, is like use your attorney throughout the process.
No, I think it was a great point. And honestly, having them involved early on is only going to help you down the road. It's going to make everything smoother. Not that the deal's going to go perfect. Deals never do.
Never.
But to give yourself the best shot. It's to have somebody involved early. So I think that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
We split that one up into 2 separate episodes because we covered a decent amount of content. And then following that, we went into the deal team.
Mm-hmm.
Who's on the deal team, which means all of the partners involved in the process. So that one we really outlined and kind of previewed a number of guests that we're going to have on the show that we have and that we're going to have. I think a big takeaway for me was making sure you have the right people involved, and maybe that team looks one way today and maybe post-transaction it looks different, but ensuring that you have everybody on board, and then also making sure you involve everybody, to your point about getting the attorney involved early. Make sure everybody on your deal team knows what's going on and are up to speed. and whoever that quarterback is, in your case, if it's the investment banker kind of controlling everything, or if it's the buyer's attorney or the seller's, whoever's kind of QBing it, make sure they know to get everybody involved or their representatives, whoever that is, just to ensure everybody's on the same page. I think that was a big takeaway.
Yeah, and to your point, that making sure you have everybody involved, because
Mhm.
most people don't even think of some of these people that you need to get in.
Sure.
It's not just your transaction attorney,
Right.
it's your CPA, it's your tax planning, all that kind of
Right.
stuff, right? Your insurance company is probably key in it. So we did. I feel like that was a really good one
It
for people
was.
to like really understand. Oh, I gotta include that person.
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta tell my banker telling the company, right?
Oh, wait, I'm getting a tax bill. Should I plan for that?
Yeah.
How much money do I need, post transact? I mean, all these considerations. And I think almost a little bit a la carte, because not every transaction has every partner.
Yep.
But I think we covered a wide range of partners
Yeah.
that could happen or could be needed to engage them.
Yeah, I thought that was a great one. I actually really enjoyed shooting that one.
Yeah.
After that one, we did valuation. So we had
Yes.
Don Price on from Bodmer Price, and key takeaway from that one, you don't know what you don't know, right? When you talk to Don and you start hearing about all the different methods and where it's applicable and where it makes sense, and true, sometimes it's just asset value versus the market approach and all these different approaches that they have.
Right.
And then, litigation for
Sure.
the sale of your company or when you're fundraising, like,
Right.
there's so many applications of your valuation. That was a really good episode. That
Yeah.
I think provided details into a process that is very complicated and subjective.
Right. It is subjective, and I think that was an interesting point for from Don is, he referenced one formula that he used and supported it with data, and he said they didn't have credit card transactions, so we had to make an assumption and we had to support it. I thought that was interesting. To your point about subjectivity is you have to be able to describe what you're showing and back it up.
Yep.
And that was in a litigation case, I think, was what that was in, but there's a lot of different uses for it. And I mean, Don, I think he said 50 a year, roughly.
I no, I think he's done 50 litigation cases.
Litigation case.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
pretty insane
Sure.
when you think about
Yeah.
how much work goes into each one of those.
Right.
But he's doing a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the number was that he dropped.
Yeah. I don't remember either, but it was a great podcast. It was fun talking to him, and I learned a lot. I think that, not that I didn't learn a lot from all of the podcasts, but that one I definitely was kind of in full absorb mode
Yeah.
throughout.
That was one where we were actually quiet.
Yeah. Right. Hey, hard to do. Hard to do for us. No, that was a good one. And after valuation, we recently put out packaging the deal.
Mhm.
And what that means, we kind of talked about it in the key components, the package and all the steps within a transaction. But the package of the deal is super important because you're putting together, whether it's a teaser or a full sim, right, to send to market,
Yep.
to send to your partners, to send to the deal team. Your internal team who's helping you put it together, your external team and your CPA and other, your attorney who has your documents, your entity documents, your personal documents, all involved in putting that deal together that you can then take to market. So I think that was a good conversation, just because somebody who's going to be going through the process might not know what I need to do. How do I get it to market? Who's going to look at what?
Yep.
So kind of giving some people a heads up on that.
And I think it also gives people an idea of like what all the partners need in order to play their role in the deal as well. So like the banker needs a lot of information out of that package. So you got to make sure it's included. What do people really need to look at? What's important in the package to make sure it's included so that you have the right data to get everybody satisfied that needs to be. And of course, further diligence always goes on after that, but you want to make sure everybody's working from the same set of facts.
Right.
So,
And that those are easily identifiable.
Yep.
They're concrete. They're supported, substantiate, all that stuff. So there's some light work. I mean,
Yeah.
more than anybody in getting that ready and prepared for market.
absolutely. 100%. Okay. So now that we've recapped everything
Yeah.
that we've done to date, we obviously have a bunch more content coming out
We do.
next year,
Yeah.
2025. Let's go. So I just want to highlight some of the topics that we are going to talk about. So I think one of the early episodes we're going to release is going to be one with a guest
Another guest. Yeah.
discussing asset-based lending. which is a very unique tool. Can be used for acquisitions, can be used to refinance companies in certain situations, all that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
that's going to be a great conversation for everybody to listen in on. Super interesting one that I'm really excited about that I think is just like super relevant to where we are today is AI and how
Yeah.
it's involved in transactions. And
Probably even more so than we know.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, I'm gonna try and be as quiet as possible on that one. Just so
Learn, absorb, right?
yeah, exactly. Because we got a really great source coming in to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But I think it's during diligence. I think it's applying to post closing, tracking KPIs, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's integration stage, all that. So it's
Right.
going to be a really, really interesting
It
conversation.
will be informational.
We also have different types of buyers. So we're going to talk about like what kind of people buy companies,
Right.
private equity funds, family offices, all those kind of things. So that'll be a really interesting conversation as well. We're going to talk about different types of lenders.
Right.
Yeah.
Asset base being one of those.
Yeah.
And then we'll zoom out and cover a
Some of
variety
the,
more.
yeah, because there's commercial lenders and
Mhm.
they absolutely have a bunch of tools in their own belt, right?
Sure.
Including going from SBA all the way up to large corporate transactions that
Hey.
have or private banking, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different types of
Within, right.
yeah, but I think also taking a look at some of those private lenders, maybe some private credit, stuff like
Sure.
that. That'll be kind of
Yeah.
interesting
That'll
as
be a
well.
good conversation.
Insurance, we've got a really good partner coming on to talk insurance. Great,
Right.
great experience and has worked at some of the major houses and
Right.
and just like his vast knowledge of insurance and how they all tie into transactions. That would
Sure.
be a great one. I'm really excited to bring him on.
Yeah.
Just
I'm excited to learn a little bit more. Admittedly, I haven't had a deep experience with insurance as it relates to transactions. So understanding kind of the situations where it makes sense, when it doesn't,
mhm,
I think a little bit, I think we've heard this, that a little bit push and pull with the market.
mhm,
So based on, what the macro market looks like,
yep,
could call for more insurance or less insurance. So learning all that, I think, is going to be awesome.
yep. And then I think the last one that we have targeted right now, set up to go, is going to be HR in a transaction and how it plays into it.
Right.
So taking a look at benefits
Sure.
and how you take care of your employees, and that's always a big diligence part
Mm.
of a transaction. So I think the guest we have for that
Yeah.
one's going to be really strong too. I mean, I hate to say it, like
Yeah.
it sounds kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, we have all these great guests,
We
but
do.
we really do have
We
all these
do.
great guests.
We do. And I think
So
that one has a lot of applications, like a lot of these do.
mhm,
Um, Pre-transaction, right? If you're just running your business, it's applicable. I mean, as you gear up for a transaction and then after a transaction. So
mhm,
they're all pretty important topics. And then beyond this, Joe, I would call these our on deck. We've got a bench full of stuff too that we are kind of crafting and formulating. So
yep,
I stay tuned. And as always, I mean, Joe and I say it all the time. If you have any concepts or any kind of topics that haven't been covered or we're not talking about that are upcoming,
yep,
let us know.
engage.
Engage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are there any out of those though that are especially enticing
Yeah,
for
right.
you?
I think the insurance one, I know I mentioned that. And the AI, I think I kind of look at it as kind of that dark cloud that's looming.
Yep.
And I know that it's going to impact, I think, all of us in a lot of different ways. Specific to transactions, I'm interested to kind of hear what's out there today and kind of what's quickly coming down the pipe. Because as we know, that stuff happens very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Right? And it's compounding. So as soon as we get a change, it'll look different right after that. So
Yep.
knowing what's coming down the pipe on that, I think is going to be good. But all of these, I think, are going to be great conversations and excited to prep for those.
Yeah. Those will be really cool.
So we covered kind of what we've had on the podcast so far, what we think is coming up and what we know is coming up in 25. Wanted to mix in a little fun conversation. Obviously, we're filming this fresh off of Thanksgiving. The Lions picking up a win on Thanksgiving, which
So
I didn't realize it had been 8 years, right? Because the Lions have been pretty good this year, to say the least. Last year, for sure.
it's not like they made it easy on us though.
Oh,
Like,
they did.
come on.
Well, and a lot of people in Chicago probably feel that that game was given away to us. So, but
Including their coach.
including their coach, right? Yeah, that was fun to watch. It was good to get the win though,
Yeah.
and if we can survive all the injuries, it could be an interesting rest of the year.
Yeah. We might have to do a special pod if they go
It's
all
not
the
a
way.
bad idea.
Yep.
All of our guests might be at the Super Bowl if they go all the way, but we'll have one before the Super Bowl, kind of prep for it. But, December obviously is always packed, right? Holidays, family traditions, work parties, office parties, charity events.
Yep.
We're kinda getting in full swing of that. I just kinda wanted to get your thought on the holiday parties specifically. How do you approach them? And I'm guessing the answer might be varied, but how do you determine, hey, this is a friend party or this is a celebratory with somebody I've closed a deal with?
Yeah.
Or C, alternatively, hey, I want to hit networking pretty hard. Probably blended,
Yeah.
but just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Look, to start, I always wanna catch up with my friends at the end of the year because you are gonna go through a long lull there where you might be texting
Sure.
and you might talk to each other, but, y like, you're gonna be out of pocket with a lot of people with
Right.
family stuff or travel or whatever it
Sure.
may be, so it is good to see your friends, get together for, a breakfast, a lunch, or a
Right.
drink, or whatever it may be, a dinner. Um, for me personally, I'm not gonna lie, December's pretty exhausting for me. I'm sure it's the same for you.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to all your COIs, you're going to all their holiday
Sure.
parties. You do have to see everybody. I think I have, at least 3 to 4 events each week
Right.
because and then, outside of that, you've got drinks or
Sure.
lunches and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
it is very taxing. I got a couple of young kids, so it's really tiring.
Right.
And by the way, Mr. Shawn,
Join the team.
congratulations, my man.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. Got a newborn at home, so she's been keeping us busy,
Yeah.
learning the dad life. I know I've got a lot more to find out, but it's been fun so far. So I'm on that team now. I got
Yeah.
to be a little bit more
Welcome to the club, bud.
mindful of the schedule and energy and
Mhm.
the calendar, but it,
And it's tough,
it is. It is.
but that plays into it, right? That
Sure.
plays into how you're scheduling these things out.
Right.
So, like, typically during the year, I try not to have back-to-back nights of stuff so that I can be home for the kids. Um,
Kind of goes.
December's it's one of those things where you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna have holiday time together.
Right.
I'm gonna try and make up for this." You're
Right.
still trying to be cognizant of it.
Sure.
You try and be around as much as
Right.
possible, but how about you? Like, I mean, I'm doing all the talking on this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think most of the events always seem to be mixed, right? Because you frequently, depending on what kind of event you're at, you're going to see some friends and you're going to see some partners that you've closed deals with or worked on
Mhm.
stuff with, and then you're going to see some people that maybe you haven't met before. And those always seem to be kind of the cherry on top for me,
Yep.
right? If I can meet a few new people and forecast meeting them early January or middle of January,
Mhm.
I think that's kind of a win. So
Yep.
I'd say blended.
Yep.
But rapid fire, next question. Are you a Christmas card, Christmas email kind of guy? You blast it out to your network. How do you approach that?
I should be better about it,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. So as a firm, we used to send out like little gifts and
Sure.
cards and all that kind of stuff. Quite honestly, I need to get back to it just because I want everybody to know like I'm thinking of them. Like even though we're all busy and all that kind of stuff, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate working with you, all that kind of stuff. It's something I need to get back to. Sometimes you just get caught up
Hard.
in running pretty hard.
It
So,
is.
um, not something I've done in the last couple of years, probably something I should start picking back up. Are you good at it?
You know what? I tend to get maybe 15, 20 Christmas cards out.
Mhm.
Maybe I try to do more. But then to your point, right? When you see people, that's kind of your soft.
Yeah.
It might not be as formal as a Christmas card or a personal Christmas email, but
Yep.
holiday gatherings, um, you know, any kind of opportunity to catch up with somebody, even if it's a quick text.
Yep.
I mean, something like you said to make them think that you're thinking of them.
Mhm.
I usually talk to, most of my customers over this time period. And so that's good to connect with them too during the season.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's one that's tough because it is kinda time consuming.
It
You gotta
is.
make sure you actually, like, get your who do I need to reach out to?
Right.
It's a tough one.
It is.
It's I give kudos to those who, like, are able to get
Sure.
everything out because
Yeah. And
bravo.
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And then you gotta mix in kind of planning for next year, right?
Mm.
That's kinda hard this season, right? But if you can carve out some time, I try to a little bit, get some of my, work planning done before the end of the year. Now that varies for everybody. Sometimes I don't know if you got a deal that you're closing before year end, but sometimes I find that last week in between Christmas and New Year to get some of that year end
Yeah.
wrap up, but then also planning for the next year.
Do you get kinda itchy in between? So you're at home during the holiday, and obviously we all like to spend time with our
Yeah,
family, but you do get very you get entrenched into your normal routine.
right.
Does it get a little
It
do you get a little
does.
iffy?
It does, and I'll take that one step further. Even when I'm back in the game, not everybody else is.
Yeah.
Some people take New Year's and the week after New Year's
Mhm.
off, or some people, it's so mixed. So it's like you could want to be on your game, but not
Yep.
everybody else is, whether that's internal people you work with, that's external
Yep.
people you work with. So that's one thing I've noticed, not only controlling, my feeling, but also you can't control what everybody else has got going on. So it's just kind of a weird time.
Yeah, and look, for some people, like, the end of the year is super busy, not just
Right.
because of the holiday parties, but because transactions, like, a
Adjustments.
lot of the time, I'm sure you have
Right.
customers who are trying to jam stuff into that
Sure.
year, right?
Right.
Transaction attorneys are typically super busy at the end of the year. CPAs are busy because
Right.
everybody's trying to get their
Sure.
so there's just all those pieces of the puzzle that
Yeah.
everybody's so busy, and then, like, you do wanna relax, but at the same time, you're still raring and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to quote this movie, but I mentally picture Home Alone when they're running to the airport, right? Everybody's running to year end and whatever that looks like for them, right? If it's a transaction, if it's the holiday parties, if it's family gatherings, everybody's running to the end of the year.
Just don't be Kevin and get left behind,
Yeah, don't
right?
get left behind. I want that. Just so everybody knows, I frequently reference Home Alone and Wolf of Wall Street. So those are my two movies. Non-seasonal for Wolf of Wall Street, but always reference those two. Sometimes Wedding Crashers, but
I can verify that.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Joe actually beat me to Home Alone this season. I
You
haven't
know
yet
that.
watched it. So
You know it.
excited to watch that probably 7 or 8 times. If I were correct.
Hey, childhood.
Have
Child.
to. Have to.
So from a personal perspective,
Yeah.
what are your traditions? Like, what do you guys get up to every single year besides watching Home Alone 8 times?
Yeah, right. Well, this year I think it's gonna be a little different, right? Having a newborn.
Yep. You get to create new traditions.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we always kind of joke in the metro area, someplace, a town we always land on is Birmingham. They have a winter market. So
Just coming up here shortly.
coming up shortly. And that was one of um, the few places that we make a point to go to every year is the Birmingham Winter Market. This year we're checking out, I think it's called the Aurora Lights and Commerce.
Okay.
So I haven't done that before. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah.
Somebody was just telling me that there's the Renaissance Festival has like a winter festival, which
Oh, really?
so they have a winter festival up in Holly, Michigan. And then I was just reading something about Canterbury Village
Okay.
in Lake Orion. So
Yeah.
they have some stuff. But so yeah, I live in Clarkston, so right DTE, Pine Knob. They
Yep.
have a light tour that's
Yeah.
been up for
It's like a drive-through, right?
drive through, yeah,
Yeah.
for 5 or 6 years. So that one's always fun. We usually always do that partly because it's close, but it's fun. So we that's kind of we're gonna try out a few new things this year, but it'll be a little different with the newborn. Not
So
as
I will tell you, you should try well, maybe not this year because
yeah,
you have a newborn, but you should try the Detroit Zoo
okay.
has an awesome light show.
Yeah.
Like, it's millions of lights.
Oh wow.
You're gonna freeze, but
Yeah.
it's we do it every single year.
Okay.
So it's well worth it. The kids love it at
Yeah.
this point. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and, like, they absolutely love it at this point.
Yeah.
Totally worthwhile to do. One that's become a tradition in Metro Detroit is just going down to the shops at Cadillac Square, right?
True. Yeah.
It's become like a cool little spot where
Yeah,
they set up
purchase.
they set up these awesome little shops,
Right.
a lot of small companies, all that kind of stuff, and then they have, like, a bar
Sure.
slash tent area that you
Right.
can go hang out, fireplaces roaring,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It's really cool, and it's right off of the ice rink and the Christmas tree, so
Right.
that's
No, that's a good point.
that's a good
It's a
one.
popular one.
Yeah, we did it this past weekend, and that was really fun.
Okay. We did Greenfield Village a couple years ago. They
Okay.
did a nice job there.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so many options, which is awesome, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of activities, a lot of things to get out. Nothing beats a cocktail happy hour at one of the local watering holes, and that's always a good Christmas tradition.
Yeah, right.
Catching up with friends and catching up with coworkers and whatnot. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it's kind of fun. I think it's a good time of the year. Everybody's energies, while rushed, also seems to be laid back, which is good.
Yep.
But yeah, so some business traditions, some personal traditions. We appreciate everybody tuning into this year-end recap.
Yeah.
It was good to kind of highlight what we both took away from the episodes we've already filmed, preview what's coming up.
Mhm.
Uh, I can't speak for Joe. I think he feels the same, but it's been fun doing this podcast and bringing everybody these episodes.
Absolutely.
We're pretty fired up about 2025 and what we've got cooked up for that.
Yep.
Some more content, hopefully some good guests, hopefully some good networking spots. I know we've brought a few to the table already, both us individually and our guests have. Um, we just encourage everybody to send a quick note to anybody in your business life that, whether it's a mentor, a good client, a good, referral partner, send them a note. I know Joe and I just got done talking about how hard it is to stay on task for all that during this time of year, but the little things go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Use the time to actually reconnect with the people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while.
Right.
Like we talked about, like that December can be a rat race, but
Sure.
you want to make sure you're carving out time for the people that matter in your life and
Right.
are, and look, everybody matters, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like important people who've
Key.
helped you out through your life. So,
Yeah.
reach out to those people. I do want to say, Shawn, I really appreciate like this was a really fun process to
Yeah.
go
It
through with
was.
you this year. I mean, just figuring out what the heck we were doing was
Right.
kind of interesting. Figuring out the thought process of the podcast was very cool. Um, I really appreciate the way you and I have been able to work back and forth with this. Like it's been such a collaboration, which is,
totally.
sometimes our businesses can be kind of like head down, hard
Sure.
charging. Like you always have partners and stuff, but sometimes you're just like, I need to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And this is something that is a collaboration, and
Totally.
it's it's been a fun process for me.
It has. And hopefully we've gotten better, right? So far we were, we continue to improve and evolve. We've lost the headphones, right? We didn't need those. And, hopefully our conversation flows a little bit better. It, anybody who hasn't done this before, it's been a cool experience.
Yeah, it's been a really cool experience. So, look, end of year wrap up. We got to hit our end of year. You got to give me your spot for a good business interaction.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
One that hasn't come up yet, which I'm kind of surprised. I, I have a hard time saying no when I get invited down to the DAC, whether
Love it.
that's for cigars up top or if that's for a meal or drinks or, any mix of those. It's a top-notch spot. And I mean, as you and I both know, frequently ranked one of the best athletic clubs in the country. So I think we're spoiled having that downtown, and everybody I talked to that has gone to other athletic clubs, yeah, it's nice, but,
Yeah.
it was a good time, but it was a good location, but Detroit takes cake.
It was inevitable that was going to come
Yeah.
up because like we do spend so much time down there.
We do.
Even though neither of us are members,
Right.
we have so many friends in the business community that we have business lunches down there. We have all kinds of events. We get
Right.
to have celebrations. I'm going to be having, I'm sure, a cigar up
Yeah.
on the rooftop there before the end of the year,
Right.
catching up with friends and family, all
Sure.
those kind of things. It is literally a business club.
Right.
It is not a club that is, just for sports. Although they have a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
They have bowling, they have, the Beavers, they have all that, and
Right.
all the different kind of stuff, squash, handball, all that kind of stuff. But when you go down there, you run into so many business professionals. It's insane.
You really did.
That's what it's made up of.
Yeah.
And that's a really, to wrap up the year, that's probably the totally appropriate.
It is.
Especially because they dress that club up better than any club that I've ever been at for the holidays.
Sure.
Like the Christmas
Full
trees,
season,
like
yeah.
everything is done. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And to your point, everybody who comes in from out of town, most of them will stay down there if
Right.
they're from, New York or the East Coast or Chicago, wherever you're coming from.
Right.
If they stay there, they tell me this is a top-notch club.
Right.
It goes up or beats any club in the country.
Yeah.
So
No.
really, really good call out on your
agree.
part.
Yeah, no, it's, I'm sure some of these other places will come up over the course of our suggestions, but I would put that probably DAC in maybe specifically the last word on that short list of if the walls could talk.
Yeah.
Right. Either the things they've seen, the conversations they've heard, the deals that have gotten done,
Yeah.
I always think of that when I think of some of these networking places is if the walls could talk, and I think that's probably true of the whole club.
Yeah.
A lot of activity.
Look, my dad's been a 50+ year member there.
Yeah.
That place has a special affinity in my
Yeah.
heart, so,
Absolutely. Well, that was a good one. That was a
yeah.
good one to bring to the table
Yeah.
to end up. But, again, thanks everybody for listening.
Yep.
As always, check us out on YouTube, LinkedIn, check us out on Instagram. We recently have a TikTok. If you're into just listening to audio only, we're on Apple and Spotify. If you could give us a subscribe, follow, and then comment, that'd be awesome. We'd love to hear the feedback. Hopefully all good comments, but at minimum, if you could subscribe, that would be great for us. And like Joe and I said, it's been collaborative between us, but we've also had a lot of input from people within our network. Hey, I got an idea.
Yep.
I might want to talk about this. And some of those are those ones that I mentioned in the pipeline that are under construction, right? I mean, we've had a lot of engagement.
Yep.
And we appreciate it, and we want that to happen. So feel free to engage us and subscribe. And we appreciate our listeners. We do. Thank you for tuning in and, listening to Making the Deal.
Yeah. The final episode of 2024.
Yes. So I'm Shawn Racino.
I'm Joel.
Thank you for joining us on Making the Deal, Frameworks for Transactions. Have a good year.
We'll see you in the new year.